I was born in the city of Long Chen, which is in Laos, but the Hmong are not Laotians. When the war erupted in Laos, or I should say in Vietnam, and spilled into Laos, the Hmong, because having sided with the United States, we were then forced to flee Laos as well, or face persecution by the communist Lao. I would have been 5 or 6 when the Hmong as a group were leaving the country of Laos and had established refugee status with the United Nations in Thailand. And during that time, for better or for worse, I remember very little, but I do remember the chaoticness. I remember the tight sleeping corridors. I remember the lack of food. Though I didn't have the same level of understanding as an adult, as say my mother or my older siblings, I do remember that they were not ideal conditions for any child to be in. I do recall living in barracks, more or less, with my 6 siblings and I, where essentially all the families slept in the same room with bed sheets that divided families from families. And we literally slept right next to each other. There wasn't a formal educational process that sat Hmong refugees down and said, hey, you are now coming to the United States because of your involvement with the United States government during the Vietnam War. People didn't have that educational information. All we knew was we had to leave, because if you didn't leave and you stayed behind, you faced death. I can't think of a single Hmong refugee family who didn't lose a relative or a parent or a child. My own family, we lost my father during the Vietnam War, and he actually passed away before I was even born. There is a picture of my family and I. We arrived in the United States on April 20th, 1978, and April is coming up, and that marks the 40th anniversary of when my family and I arrived in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And it was a cold April, and we didn't know what we had stumbled across. We were completely unfamiliar with our new setting. It was a scary journey. We did not think of America as this place on a golden hill with incredible opportunities before us. We simply saw it as a way to survive, to stay alive. I started kindergarten. I am the only family member of my 7 siblings who had a full K-12 education. But I do recall going to kindergarten class, and there was a particular incident where I really needed to go to the bathroom, and I didn't know how to ask. I didn't know how to ask my teacher where the bathroom is. I didn't know how to ask a fellow classmate, and so I just held my bladder all day. Because I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, in many ways I was sheltered from some of the many challenges, some of the challenges that other refugees might have faced living and settling in larger communities. And what I mean by that is, when you live in a small community, you get the chance to know people one-on-one. So I had this clean slate to work with, essentially. And I was able to use that to my advantage, and I navigated life rather well because of it. I eventually went on to be senior class president and homecoming queen. It's not to say my life was void of any racism, because I believe racism was present, and it still is present, unfortunately, in our society. But that they saw me as a friend first and foremost. They saw me as a classmate. They saw me as it's just another gal from Eau Claire. And it wasn't until I came to the Twin Cities and I was actually practicing law as a young attorney, did I realize, whoa, the world sees me so different than I see myself. I actually was not subjected to racism and racial inequity outright in my face until I became a young lawyer in the Twin Cities. When I was a young prosecutor, people would just flat out ask me, are you really the prosecutor? And I would respond in my most cordial and professional way that I could. I am the prosecutor. What did you expect the prosecutor to look like? And they would turn their head into the courtroom and they would say more like the judge. And the judge, who would typically be an old white male. When I would check in with court staff, they would always ask me, are you the court interpreter? It was never, you're the attorney, we'll mark you down as the attorney who's present here to represent John Doe. It was always, are you the interpreter? I've been called a sir in the courtroom as a new judge on multiple occasions. I've been called ma'am routinely. I first started out as a special assistant county attorney with the Ramsey County Attorney's Office here in Ramsey County. And I did that for a little bit, and then I took a full-time position with the Rochester City Attorney's Office, where I continued to prosecute down there as well. And at some point, as good of an experience as it was to represent the state of Minnesota, and as rewarding as it is to represent the government, I wanted the chance to also represent the little person. But when I became a public defender here in Ramsey County, it also opened my eyes to a whole host of different issues. I truly did not know how poor people were until I became a public defender. It helped me to understand on a much deeper level in what it means to serve the people in our community. In addition to being a district court judge here in Ramsey, I'm also a mother of 2 children. I am also married to a Hmong American gentleman who is also a former refugee child, and he is a family doctor here in St. Paul. Our family has made it a priority to give back to our communities and to really understand the importance of it's not enough to just help ourselves, but we have to help lift up our entire community. My public swearing in ceremony, or we call it investiture ceremony, was back on January 4th of 2018. That's a chance for my friends, my family members, and our community to come together and celebrate my appointment. But I'd actually gotten appointed on November 30th of 2017 by Governor Mark Dayton. And when I got the appointment, it obviously meant a lot to me personally, and I am so humbled by it. But it wasn't until my public swearing-in ceremony, my investiture on January 4th, did I realize truly what it meant to our community. And when I say our community, people may think, oh, she's referring to her Hmong American community. No, I mean our entire state of Minnesota. I could feel in the air a level of excitement and optimism and hope that our legal system, in particular our judicial system, is changing. When our judicial system reflects the collective experiences of everyone, that's when we are strong as a legal system, that we have then we are able then to create this belief, this trust, this hope that our legal system will be fair, it will be respectful, it will be just towards everyone and not just a select few. I take that responsibility to heart every day so that I'm continuously mindful of what my role is, and that is to serve our community. One of the important things that I talked about in my investiture ceremony was to all the young people out there, know this, that your destiny is not determined by your birthplace or by your circumstances. And so if anything, my place now at the table of justice is an indication that my birthplace and my circumstances did not determine and would not determine my own destiny.